Okay, class, let's get into Texas history. Please, on the top of your paper, write Texas history 7th, 10.5 for lesson 5, unit 10. Today we'll be talking about the government in Texas and how it works and different laws and constitutional statements. As always, with the yellow highlighted, please write these down as these will be the answer to your questions. Starting with the vocabulary, a statement of the fundamental rights available to all citizens, the Bill of Rights. Next, measures that ensure the various parts of the government work together and at the same time limit the power of each other is checks and balances. An introductory section that explains the purpose of Constitution separation of powers, the dividing of the responsibilities of the government into separate branches. Preamble, the dividing of the responsibility of the government into separate branches, separation of powers. So starting with the first part, the Constitution. The foundation of any democratic society is its Constitution. When the writers of the U.S. Constitution met to put together the framework of the United States government, they had no real model to guide them. They used the ideas from many writers and philosophers of the past, but in truth they created a bold, new form of the government such as was never seen before in the world. By the time Texas gained statehood, the U.S. Constitution had already stood the test of time, so the framers of the Texas Constitution looked at the model as they were already ready to draft the Constitution of State of Texas. As a result, there are some major similarities between the two documents. However, these are some of the major differences between the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of the State of Texas because the member of the Constitutional Convention of 1875 produced a constitution, the one that is still being used today, that also reflects the specific needs of Texas. Texans have been governed under 7 different state constitutions in its history. Since most of them have already been discussed in this course, we will provide only a list of the brief description seen on figure 5.1. So these are the different constitutions of Texas. And we are still running under the 1876 one of the Texas Constitution, specifically for Texas. The writers of both the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of Texas attempted to produce a body of law that will only last forever. However, it is not possible for them to see the future and know what future generations will need. For that reason, they designed both constitutions so that they could be changed as the needs arose. Many laws that were enacted 150 or 200 years ago are still in effect. Others have been amended. Some outdated laws have been repealed, and some new laws have been added. Therefore, the discussion of the contents of Texas Constitution may not be completely up to date. So the preamble that began in the Texas Constitution of 1876, which was an introductory section that explains the purpose. Both of the U.S. Constitution and Texas have preamble, but the Texas version is shorter. Bill of Rights, after the preamble of the Texas Constitution, is the main body of law, which is divided into 17 articles. Article 1 is called the Bill of Rights. Both Texas Constitution and the U.S. Constitution contain a Bill of Rights, a statement that has fundamental rights available to all citizens. Going on to the Texas Bill of Rights, it has different ones. All men have the right to trial by jury. The citizens shall have the right in a peaceable manner. And then Article 2 goes into more about the Sir John Dalberg action and the British historian. The truth is that the real framers of both the U.S. Constitution and Texas Constitution, to prevent any one person or group in the government of becoming too powerful, it's both built in system of checks and balances, which are measures that ensures that the various parts of government work together, at the same time limit the power of each other. One way that checks and balances are accomplished is by the separation of powers, which is dividing the responsibilities of the government into separate branches. By using the separation of powers, no branch of the government can gain absolute or unlimited power. So going on with legislative branches, the first branch to be discussed is the legislative branch, known as the legislature. The job of the legislature is to make laws, of course, and as in true democracy, every person in a country or state would meet and gather to decide every law. That would take a while, obviously, if you have 20 million Texans. So in a Republican government, the people elect representatives and empower them by meet together and decide which laws will be passed. Going on with executive branch, the second branch of government, its job is to enforce the laws passed by the legislature, and both elected members and appointed members are a part of this. The 7 officers of the executive branch of the Texas government are governors, the lieutenant governor, attorney general, comptroller of public accounts, and commissioner of agriculture, commissioner of agriculture, and land commissioner, and the secretary of state. Moving on, we have the last officer of the executive branch, which is the secretary of state. It is not elected official, but is appointed by the governor. Their duties of the Secretary of State include overseeing and regulating state elections, keeping all official state businesses records, and advising the government on matters of affairs with Mexico and the Mexican border. With these general commissions, they are the General Land Office and in charge of public lands in Texas, and they control pretty much the government executive of Texas itself. Alright guys, that is Lesson 5 of Texas history. Please let me know if you have any questions.